Hello, third grade friends. Welcome back to Math with Naz. Today for our math lesson, we are moving on to Module 5, Lesson 10. You're going to need some specific things for this lesson that we've made together in previous lessons, namely your fraction strips. So the fraction strips you're going to need today are the halves, the thirds, the sixths, the fourths, and the eighths. If you have those, get them out. If you don't have them, don't feel like you have to remake them. I will be using them in the video so you can just follow along with me. You'll also need your journal and a pencil. We're going to do some work together, and then we're also going to do some work in our journals later. So for the work that we're doing together, you'll also need your whiteboard, your dry erase marker. If you don't have those, either because you've lost it or you're not in my class, don't worry, just use a pencil and paper. That would work too. All right, so go gather all the things that you need and come on back to do some math with Naz. Okay, third graders, here's your challenge. I would like you to take all of the fraction strips you have. Again, that's the eighths, the fourths, the sixths, the thirds, and the halves, and I would like you to put them in order from largest to smallest. When you're all done with that, unpause the video and come back and check your work with mine. If you don't have these fraction strips because you lost them, no worries, just keep watching and I'm gonna order them. But if you do have the fraction strips, go ahead and order them right now. Okay, third graders, so I'm looking for the largest, and I know that the half takes up all of this space here, and it is the largest. Next will come the third. That takes up this amount of space. Next will be the fourth. So if you have put the fourth next, that is correct. And it takes up this amount of space. Rough drawing. Then comes the sixth, which takes up just that amount of space. And last but not least is the eighth that takes up the least amount of space. So here you go. I have ordered my fractions from the largest size, which was a half, to the smallest size, which is an eighth. So you should have done 1/2 followed by 1/3, 1/4, 1/6, and 1/8. Take a look at what I've done or what you've done if you still have your fraction strips and tell me what you notice. So one thing that I noticed is that the more parts something has, like the eighth, it has 8 parts, right? It's the smallest. And the least part something have, like the halves, it's only been folded once, it's the biggest. I also noticed that it goes numerically, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. Where do you think a 7th would go? Yeah, between a 6th and an 8th. Okay, third graders, now we're going to see if that exact experiment works if we use a different shape. So this time we're going to be using circles. Get your whiteboard and a marker out. Then I want you to do the best you can to draw 5 circles in as close to being the same size as possible. Once you've got that underway, go ahead and pause the video until you're all done, having drawn 5 circles, being in the same, as close to the same size as possible. Okay, third graders, now we're going to partition those circles just like the fraction strip. So the largest one was the half. We are going to partition this circle in half, trying to make it as close to a half as possible. Then label the unit fraction. 1/2, 1/2. Next up came a third. So we're going to partition this next circle into a third. And remember, my favorite way to partition a circle into thirds or sixths or ninths is always to start in the center and then to draw a line from the center up on either side and then down. And then I'm going to put the unit fraction inside each one. Now I have 3 parts that are pretty close to the same size. If you still need more time with that, pause the video. If you're done with that, let's do fourths. And we're going to do fourths just like we did halves. So for thirds, we break them up with this dot in the center. With fourths, we always start with cutting them in half and then cutting our halves in half. Once yours looks like that, go ahead and write the unit fraction inside each one. Third graders, if you take a look, as I'm partitioning these circles into halves, thirds, and fourths, every time I partition them, even though the circle's basically the same size, the parts are getting smaller. Every partition or cut I make means I have a smaller piece. Next up, we said the sixth was the next biggest one. And just like I did thirds, I also want to do sixths by making a dot in the center and starting with cutting it into thirds. One line up on a diagonal, next line up on a diagonal, line straight down. That's thirds. Now cut all of your thirds in half. That's 2 parts, 4 parts, 6 parts. Now inside, write the unit fraction. You're going to have to write small if you can. If you can't write the unit fraction, just write below the part you partitioned. Okay, go ahead and pause the video if you need more time, but the rest of us are going to do the last one, which is 1/8. For halves, fourths, and eighths, we always start by cutting or partitioning the shape in half, then the halves in halves, then the fourths in half. And here you should have 8 pieces. 1/8, 2/8. I'm writing 1 though, I'm writing the unit fraction. 1/8, that's 3. 1/8, that's 4. 1/8, that's 5. 1/8 is 6. 1/8 is 7. 1/8 is 8. I have 8 parts. The unit fraction is 1/8. Now what I want you to do is go ahead and shade in 1 unit fraction of each part, of each shape, excuse me. So for instance, that's 1/2 shaded in, here's 1/3 shaded in, 1/4 shaded in. Careful not to erase the work that you've done like I just did. 1/6 shaded in, and 1/8 shaded in. So I have now made 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 1/6, and 1/8. And I've ordered them from largest to greatest. So it doesn't matter what shape you draw, if it's fraction strips, circles, whatever. If the shape is the same size, 1/2 will always be biggest followed by a third, followed by a fourth. The more parts you partition something in, the smaller those parts will be. Okay, third graders, I want to remind you of the greater or less than alligator. So remember, an alligator is always starving and will always eat the biggest number. Mr. Gator likes to munch juicy numbers for his lunch. Small numbers make his belly sore. Big numbers make him shout for more. So here you have some examples. 35 is greater than or bigger than 26. 58 is less than or smaller than 71. And then, of course, we know 45. We know the equal sign, the same as. 45 is the same as 45. Today, we're going to use this gator to help us tell which numbers are bigger than each other. Okay, third graders, here we're going to tell what's bigger, 1/2 or 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and shade in one part just to give us a visualization or a visual representation. That's 1/2 and this is 1/4. Now, which one is bigger? In other words, which one is greater that the alligator would like to munch? Shout it out. That's right, third graders. 1/2 is larger than 1/4. So the alligator would like to eat 1/2. Okay, third grade, let's try that again. Which is the larger or the greater number that Mr. Alligator would like to munch? Is it 1/6 or is it 1/2? Which one's bigger? That you can tell pretty easily when I draw the same size shape. That's right, 1/2 is bigger than 1/6. It's partitioned into less pieces. So Mr. Gator would rather eat 1/2. Think about it as a brownie, same size brownie. You have to share it with 5 friends, that's 6 people total, or just 1 friend, that's 2 people total. When would you get the bigger piece? When you're sharing it with 6 people or 2 people? That's right, 2 people. Just like Mr. Gator would like to munch the biggest piece, we would like to munch the biggest piece of brownie here as well. All right, third graders, we're going to try that again. Here I have 1/3 on this side that Mr. Gator could eat. And I have 1/6 on the other side that Mr. Gator could eat. What's the bigger piece that Mr. Gator would like to munch? Go ahead and shout it out. That's right, 1/3 is bigger than 1/6. I've partitioned it into less pieces. Okay, third grade, here's the last comparison we're gonna make. I've got 1/8 on this side. I've partitioned this shape, or think of it as a brownie, into an 1/8. And I've partitioned this shape, or this brownie, into 4ths. Which one would Mr. Gator rather eat? Which one is greater? That's right. Did you say 1/4? Correct. 1/4 is partitioned into less pieces than an 1/8. This fraction is much larger than this fraction when you are using the same size shape. All right, third graders, now that we've done some practice with that, it's your turn to work on some independent practice, and I have the problem set, or the first half of Lesson 10 problem set here for you. Now, I've noticed that many of you are printing out the problem set at home. If you want to do that, and you can, that's fine. I know this one is a little bit more complicated, but that's okay. I'm going to walk you through it. So if you want to print this out and you have that capability, go ahead and do that now. Otherwise, stick with me and we'll get it done together. Get your journal out. Go ahead and write Lesson 10 on top. And write today's date, which is 5-26-20. Once you've labeled that, write a number 1. And the first set of problems is asking you for each fraction, here, each fraction strip is 1 whole. All fraction strips are equal in length. Color 1 fractional unit in each strip, then answer the questions below. So the first thing you're gonna do is write 1/2. And then you're gonna draw a rectangle. And you're gonna make all of these rectangles the same size. I'm gonna make it long, therefore. And I'm gonna partition it as close to half as I can estimate. And then I'm going to write in 1/2 on each. Now, if you have crayons or color pencil or markers, whatever you wanna color in, that's fine. I'm just going to lightly color it in or shade it in using my pencil. So I've now represented 1/2. Next, it's gonna ask me to represent 1/4. I'm gonna skip a line just so I don't make this crazy messy. And I'm going to draw a fraction strip that is the same size. And I get to use these blue lines to help me, which is awesome. Once I've got my rectangle, I'm gonna partition 1/4 by making a 1/2. So do you see on the first fraction where my half line is? I'm gonna bring that down here so that my halves will look the same. And then I'm gonna estimate each half in half to make fourths. I'm gonna label in the unit fraction for all 4. And then I'm going to shade in with my pencil, lightly shade in 1/4. I don't want to go too dark because I want to still kind of be able to see my unit fraction. On this one, I can't really because I wrote my unit fraction not very dark. So I'm going to go back over it, 1/4. Okay, if you need more time, that's cool. Pause the video, take all the time you need. If you're ready to move on like me, go ahead and write 1/8 and make a unit fraction using the lines from the last unit fraction into eighths. So I'm going to draw my big rectangle, just like the last two. I'm going to use my half marker to partition that in half. I'm going to use my 4th marker, so I'm making sure these lines are the same, or in the same spot, I should say. And I'm going to do that again. Now I'm going to estimate to partition my fourths into eighths. And then I'm going to write the unit fraction 1/8 in each fraction strip. Once you have that all done, go ahead and shade in an eighth. Okay, the next one we're gonna do is a third. Again, I'm gonna skip a line, write a third. Now a third is a little bit different than halves, fourths, or eighths. You don't start off by making a halves, but I'm still gonna use the same sized rectangle by using the beginning and ending marks and then just using these blue lines. Let me move this up so I stop hitting the phone. And then instead of partitioning them in half, I'm going to estimate to partition them in thirds the best I can. And actually, I think that I made this middle one too small. So I'm gonna bring it over a little bit, just a little bit. And then I'm gonna write in the unit fraction of a third in each one. And I'm going to lightly shade in one of the thirds. Now the last fraction strip you're gonna draw today is 1/6. So go ahead and make your fraction using the beginning and end marks of a third, closing it in using the blue lines, like that. Oops. And then use your lines from a third to make thirds in the next box down. So you're going to make them be, or estimate them to be as close as possible. Once you have thirds, then you can estimate to make sixths by cutting those thirds in half, and then also write the unit fraction inside each one. And then shade in a sixth. So right away, I can see that they're not in order of greatest to least, because the biggest fraction is a half, then comes a third, then comes a fourth, then comes a sixth, and then comes an eighth. But drawing them this way helped me use the lines from above to make sure my estimates were pretty similar. Go ahead and pause the video until you've done all of one. That's the answer. So all you have to do for one is make your paper look like my paper. You're welcome. All right, third graders, we're gonna move on to 2. So go ahead and label 2. And 2 is where we are using that big, ferocious, hungry gator. Number 2 says circle less than or greater than and whisper the complete sentence. So if you haven't printed this out, you're not going to be able to circle. You're just going to have to write. That's okay. For 2A, so I'm going to label that 2A. Write 1/2 and then leave a space. Wait, write 1/2 is, and then leave a space, and then write 1/4. In that space, you're going to tell me, is 1/2 less than or greater than? Remember, less equals smaller, greater equals bigger. So write 1/2 is blank 1/4 and write in less than or greater than. Which one's bigger? Look up here. Which one's bigger? That's right, 1/2. So for 2A, I'm going to write 1/2 is greater than, oh, and I almost didn't leave enough room, 1/4. When you're done with that, right next to it or underneath it, your choice, write 2B. And 2B is asking 1/6 is, draw a line, make it a little bigger than my last one because I almost ran out of room, and then write 1/2. Is 1/6 less than or greater than 1/2? Use your fraction strips. Which one's greater or bigger, 1/2 or 1/6? 1/6 is blank, then 1/2. 1/6 is smaller, so I'm going to say less than. All right, third graders, the rest of them you're going to do on your own. So go ahead and skip a line and label 2C. 2C says 1/3 is blank, then 1/2. Fill in the blank. Pause the video. When you're done, go to 2D. And for 2D, you're going to write 1/3 is blank, then 1/6. Write in the answer. Remember, greater than means bigger, less than means smaller. Next up, write 2E. 2E says 1/8 is blank, then 1/6. Pause the video until you fill in the answer, and then go to 2F. You're doing great. 2F says 1/8 is blank, then 1/4. Fill in the answer. Oh, I think that's one of the ones we even did on the video. For the next one, write 2G. You just have 2 left. You're almost there. 2G. 1/2 is blank, then 1/8. Which one's less than, which one's greater than, and then your last one for today is 2H. And 2H is gonna try and trick you. Don't let it. If you need to draw the fraction strips for 2H, draw the fraction strips. 2H says 9/8, and it even wrote it out. But remember, that's 9/8. 9/8 is blank, then 2, I'm gonna write it down here, 2/2. This is the one they're trying to trick you. I'm gonna give you a hint. This is 9/8. This is 2/2. Draw the fraction strips. That will help you. You can do it. Try it on your own. Send me what you've got and I'll give you feedback. Or send it to your teacher if I'm not your teacher. All right, third graders, thanks so much for your hard work. If you're in my class or Miss Bedford's class, you will find this today in your Schoology assignment. If you're in Mr. Moreno's class, you can find it on greatminds.org. Okay, third graders, thanks so much for all your hard work today. Take care. Talk soon.